need to speak with the president immediately. President Trump's polling numbers with African Americans have been steadily rising, but he can overwhelmingly win the black vote, and I am here to tell you how. The African American community has been all but begging the Democrats to tell them what they're going to do for us, and the answer has been quite clear: nothing. They will do nothing for us. They take us for granted and even brag about how we won't vote against them because we all think and act alike.
Unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
They think putting a half Jamaican, half Indian woman on the ticket is enough to secure the black vote, even though she locked up over 1,500 people for smoking weed and then went on TV and laughed about how she had smoked weed, and her office kept people in jail past their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state, which is essentially slavery.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Even top Black Lives Matter leaders have condemned Kamala Harris. Hey. Even I fell for the whole put a black face on the ticket scam with Obama. I cried on Inauguration Day. I said the inner cities are going to be cleaned up. We've got a black president. He's going to help the people. And you all know what happened. Obama is from Chicago, and when he got in office, he acted like he couldn't even find Chicago on a map, despite the Democrats controlling both the House and the Senate for a number of years during his tenure as president. This is the only time in my lifetime where we've had a president that's been willing to transform our inner cities. I saw President Trump go to Chicago back in 2019. He said, "I'm here. I'm going to back you with the full might of the most powerful nation in the world. I want to stop the violence. Let's come together. Let's fix this." I'm paraphrasing, but he cared. Okay, he cared. For the first time, a president truly cared, and more importantly, he showed up and he tried to do something. And the people at the top, they refused to meet with him, and then they had the nerve to call him a racist while they sat there and did nothing, while black bodies piled up in the streets because we are killing each other at an astronomical rate. Something is in the air. Many black people are angry, and the problem is so complex that few people can verbalize it, let alone fix it. If I lived in a neighborhood where my 7-year-old was shot and killed while he slept in his bed, I'd want to scream and riot too. There are cries of institutional racism. Those folks just don't realize that the institution is the Democrat Party. Famously racist Democrat president LBJ's Great Society programs, some of which started under JFK, marked the end of the strong black family in America. The racist policies of the Democrats' Jim Crow South, in conjunction with bigoted attitudes and limited opportunities for education, made it very difficult for blacks to find jobs. And the ones that we did get were often low-paying, which left the masses in dire financial straits. Democrat President FDR created redlining in the 1930s, which not only prevented many African Americans from being able to purchase homes in the economically depressed areas in which they lived, but also banned lending to African Americans in nice suburban all-white areas as well. LBJ offered a solution: government housing and handouts in exchange for the eradication of fathers from the home. Being torn apart pained loving families, but the men didn't want to see their children starve, so they stepped aside, and the government sent workers into people's homes to look under beds and in closets, and if they found a man or even just men's clothing, they would take away their benefits. And I cannot forget about the entertainment industry. Liberal Hollywood funds the poisonous music that is pumped into the hood. I take a rap music video about as seriously as I take an Avengers movie, but these kids, they take it for real because they don't have fathers to look up to. When you look at a music video through their eyes, what you will see is somebody that walks like you and they talk like you. They're poor as you, but not anymore because now they're rich. They're so rich, in fact, they throw money in the air like Scrooge McDuck. They have a multi-million-dollar mansion, and when you go inside this mansion, each room has a different woman in it. Cut to the backyard scene. There's always a pool, and there isn't a square foot of grass that doesn't have a woman dancing on it. Cut to the front yard scene. There's a $1 million car with women laying all over that too. And then they say, if you want to be rich, all you have to do is don't get married, have a whole bunch of kids, join a gang, sell drugs, use drugs, rob people, stab people, shoot people, kill people, all while underage drinking and illegally carrying a firearm. But if you want to be super mega ultra rich just like me, just write a song about all the evil things that you've done to people, and a Democrat will come along and write you a nice big check. My bosses say, try to make the song rhyme, but if it doesn't, that's okay. If we have no idea at all as to what you're even saying, that's okay too, because we know we intentionally destroyed your chance for a good education at every level. This is the main reason why people back thugs and criminals. They're just following the liberals' blueprint for success. This is brainwashing. The Democrats know what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose. Black men, women, and children are all killing each other, and they love it. Today's celebrities are like the sirens that lured the sailors to their deaths. Because if you listen to their songs, you have a 1 in a million shot of making it big time, but the other 999,999 of you are going to jail. And there they are. The invisible chains of the Democrat plantation have just come into focus. But there's another sadder reason why people support criminals and thugs. I'm going to tell you the story of Mary Norwood. She didn't want the man responsible for killing her 7-year-old grandson Xavier put in jail because she believed that it would put him on a path of even more suffering and destruction. She said something that really stuck with me. Her words were, and I quote, "I am a mother of the race. Even if he killed my baby, he is still my baby. If nothing came out of Xavier's death, except the young man was able to look and see the error of his ways, and that changed him in some kind of way, then Xavier's death was not in vain," unquote. The Democrats have taken away the light, and we must be careful not to curse these people for living in the dark. But try as they may, they could not take Mary Norwood's light. Well, we are about 50 years into the latest Democrat plan to destroy the Black family, and that plan has been wildly successful. We went from 25% of kids being born out of wedlock in the mid-1960s to over 77% today. Without fathers to guide them, scores of children turned to gangs and drugs for the support, validation, and protection that should have been afforded to them by the nuclear family.
We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in prison. They're more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home or become teen parents because the father wasn't in the home. The foundations of our community and our country are weaker because of this.
These poor people that had been intentionally set up to fail then fell prey to the 1994 Clinton crime bill, which was largely authored by then Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Joe Biden.
But if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
In 2001, when Clinton left office, the United States had the highest rate of incarceration in the world. According to Human Rights Watch, in 7 states, African Americans were 80 to 90% of all drug offenders in prison, despite the fact that they were no more likely to use or sell illegal drugs than their white counterparts. I'm asking you all to support me and help me undo the damage done to not just the Black family, but to all families, regardless of race or color, that are trapped in the pseudo-gilded cage created by Democrat policies. I'm here today announcing the creation of the Strong Fathers, Powerful Families Initiative. We need to remove the financial penalty for having fathers in the home. You can have a 1,000,000-man march. You can have a 100,000,000-man march. You can talk to people and tell them how they need to do better till you are blue in the face, and it won't change a darn thing because people are going to do what's best for them financially. The Democrats have been financially sponsoring bad behavior for way too long, and now it's time to change that. If we're giving people money, we can at least attach that money to positive actions and outcomes. The African American community is looking for an answer to the "what are you going to do for us" question, and together we can provide that answer. The Strong Fathers, Powerful Families Initiative is a 6-part plan designed to end the Democrat-created chaos in the inner cities. Number 1, as I said earlier, we need to lift the financial restrictions and get these fathers back in these homes. I say we pay for this by reducing foreign aid. Our people are suffering, and we're sending money to outsiders. If there's no roof on my house, how can I offer my brother shelter? We need to get our own American houses and American families in order first. A 1-parent household, on average, should have less money than a 2-parent household because there's only one potential income earner. The Democrats have created an unnatural state where the government is the dad and the dad is a stranger. Number 2, we're going to deliver real hope and change to Obama's forgotten children. A teenage girl once told me that she didn't want to work, so she was going to get pregnant. And now she's a teenage mom without a job. She's white, by the way, which further illustrates that people, regardless of race, color, or creed, can find themselves chained to the Democrat plantation. Many inner city kids have a completely different mindset than the one that I was raised with. When I go into these inner city schools, I see children with no real hopes or goals. The kids want to be rappers, pro athletes, or baby mamas. And when I'm in a classroom of 30 plus kids, only about 2 of those kids are going to have parents that have jobs. The way you reach the children is through the parents. We have over 100 separate government assistance programs, and almost none of them have work requirements. All able-bodied individuals receiving government assistance need to be either working, volunteering, participating in job training programs, or a combination of the prior. Children seeing their parents working is going to break the school-to-prison pipeline along with the generational welfare cycle, and it will help repair the damage done to the children by liberal Hollywood by helping the children understand that not everyone's going to be famous, and one day they're going to have to get a job, and they need to start thinking about that now. The Democrats have hurt these children so badly, the little ones are twerking in elementary school. I know a kindergarten class that had to ban dancing. Kindergarten. When the 8-year-olds come to school gyrating like Cardi B and singing about their WAPs, it's people like me that have to tell them that you do not twerk your way to success. You work your way to success. Together, we will help disadvantaged little girls finally see that you can have a better life by having a 2-parent household. And if her dad is an electrician, maybe she'll want to be one too, because strong fathers create powerful families. Number 3, we are going to address the inner city school problem, which is a combination of many issues, including theft, underfunding, toxic Democrat-created culture, and the Common Core curriculum. We have a huge problem with adults stealing money that's earmarked for children. I had the opportunity to get information from a woman whose identity I'd like to protect, but let's just say she was at the top of her state's education department. She said that in her state, there was theft occurring in every single school district in her state, and that the difference between the poor areas and the areas with more money was that in the well-to-do areas, they wait until all the bills are paid before they start stealing, whereas in the poor areas, they steal right off the top. And we all know where the worst schools are and which political party is in charge of them. In as far as American educational opportunities are concerned, the most dangerous place for a Black child to be is inside a Democrat-controlled inner city school. However bad you think the problem is, take that and multiply it by 1,000. They steal the money and then they fake their achievement statistics. It is one of the most disgraceful scams of all time. Detroit, Camden, Baltimore, Chicago, Philadelphia, Cleveland, St. Louis, and Milwaukee. These cities all pretty much have the same story. By the mid-1960s, the Democrats have taken over. After a bit, they set up embezzlement schemes, school supplies, cafeteria food, computers, desks. Pretty much anything that's not nailed down is stolen from the children. In Detroit alone, where there hasn't been a Republican mayor since 1962, CBS reported that there were over 250 ghost employees, people illegally collecting paychecks for no-show jobs, found on the payroll of the Detroit Public Schools District. They were also found to have 500 fake dependents listed on the healthcare policies of their employees at the cost of millions of dollars every year for the school district. Next, the Democrats fly in like a plague of locusts and destroy what's left of the money supply after all the theft has occurred. These cities' school districts hold on to way more administrators than they need as they ignore the shrinking size of their populations and the decreases in student enrollment. These fleets of managers, consultants, and contractors have Cadillac healthcare plans, six-figure salaries with guaranteed annual raises and expense accounts. Atlanta Public Schools System last superintendent was making $398,000 a year with a $2,000 a month expense account, and their schools are failing. Finally, they fudged the numbers. Do you ever wonder how cities like Baltimore, that in 2017 had 13 high schools where no one tested proficient in math, still managed to have a graduation rate of about 70%? They put regular kids into bridge programs that are designed for kids with disabilities and English language learners. They have the kids do a little project, and once your little bridge program project is complete, you get to graduate without an education, and they get to look like heroes. 38 principals and 140 teachers in the Atlanta public schools system were implicated in the largest teaching scandal in American history in 2009 because they changed the standardized test scores of their students. Employees in 13 out of 44 schools implicated received a combined $500,000 in merit pay bonuses, and Superintendent Beverly Hall accepted $580,000 in performance bonuses during her tenure. Out of almost 200 people that were implicated, only 35 were indicted. NPR took a look at just one of Washington, D.C.'s many failing public schools, Ballou High School, where they run multiple number fudging schemes. The D.C. public schools official policy says that you automatically fail a class after 30 unexcused absences. But in 2017, 50% of graduates had unexcused absences totaling in excess of 3 months. And 20% had missed more than half of the school year. Ballou High School boosts their graduation rates by ignoring truancy. Ballou's teachers were pressured to give students scores no lower than 50% instead of zeros for assignments that they didn't do or missed. Seniors that were not on track to graduate were put into credit recovery, accelerated versions of the classes they were failing, but credit recovery is supposed to be for kids that have already failed because these are easier versions of the classes. They're not for kids who are currently failing. Teachers that refused to play along with any of these scams were given poor teacher evaluations, which disqualified them from being able to earn bonuses that can range as high as $15,000 to $30,000. And bad evaluations 2 years in a row can get you fired. The children have no reason to try, let alone show up when they know that they can pass no matter what. The soft bigotry of low expectations is on full display in these Democrat-run schools. The most shocking part is all those schools I mentioned, they're swimming in dough. They get thousands more than their states or the national average on a per student basis. Not only are they getting more money than most, but they also have run or are running deficits to the tune of tens to hundreds of millions of dollars. The unions and lobbyists that fight against charter schools, school choice, and closing their failing schools then come forth and cry about how everything is really the racist Republicans' fault because they won't give us more money to siphon away from the children. And then they use $100 bills to wipe the crocodile tears away from their eyes. And I cannot forget about the school boards. They're stealing school supplies, computers, hiring illiterate teachers' aides because they help them get elected, and they're vacationing with their families on your dime. The New York Times reported that Bronx District 12 school board members went on trips paid for by the district to attend conferences in Las Vegas, Honolulu, San Juan, and other resort cities, while District 12 ranked last out of New York City's 32 decentralized school districts in math and reading. I propose we have universal anti-fraud standards that all schools must meet before they can receive federal funds. This would include things like right to audit clauses in all vendor contracts and purchase orders so that we can check for kickback schemes without having to go to court. A school-specific national whistleblower hotline where valid claims are investigated by an independent third party, strengthening whistleblower protections for school employees, outlawing gift giving. Instead of using CPAs for audits, we should be using CPA CFFs, certified public accountants that are certified in financial forensics. An open book policy where schools must provide access to their financial records for any member of the taxpaying community that makes a request. If the school is giving contracts to a vendor that's related to the principal, you have a right and a duty to know about that. No more slaps on the wrist for those that would take advantage of our most vulnerable populations. 5-year mandatory minimum sentences for those that steal from children's educational funds would help deter would-be evildoers and will prevent liberal judges and prosecutors from letting their friends walk. We must have strong financial accountability to protect our children's educational interests. Finally, I don't want to see one dime of my money going to pay for school board members or administrators to fly all over the place. I propose we put this practice to an end. If you want to go to a conference, you can Zoom in, you can Skype in, you can do a Google Hangout. There's no shortage of software that you can use to talk to people. Let's see how many of these concerned citizens are still going to want to go to Hawaii to learn about current trends in education when they have to pay for it themselves. There are states where there are inner city schools that actually are significantly underfunded. I worked on the third floor of a 3-story city school with no air conditioning. Now, the administration office had air conditioning, of course, but none for the kids. Window air conditioning units were banned, and the school did not provide fans. Kids would be crying and getting nosebleeds from the heat, and adults would just pass out. Everyone acted like this was normal, but I was horrified. Depending on the weather, you were looking at about 2 to 4 months every year where no one's learning because it's too hot. And when you weren't being roasted alive, it wasn't much better because there were subjects where the teachers couldn't assign homework because there weren't enough books for all the kids to take home. These are the schools where when someone comes and shoots them up, doesn't even make the news. But when it happens in a middle-class school, it's an international tragedy. This type of inequity does not exist in my dream of what America should look like. But I understand the relationship between idealism and reality. It's fine to have your head in the clouds as long as your feet are on the ground. Understanding that relationship allows me to work within the limitations of the current system while keeping in mind that on a long enough timeline, there are no limitations and society's definition of utopia is ever changing. Ideally, all we have to do is put all state and federal funds into one big pot and give it to schools based on the number of students they have. Realistically, no one's going to vote for that. They may say they will, but they won't. Different states have different ways that they fund schools. If you specifically moved to a high-tax community so that your kids could go to an excellent school, there's no way that you're going to vote to take away money from your child's education to give it to somebody else's kid. Charter schools and school choice or school choice vouchers are the best options we have. And maybe one day, far, far, far into the future, we will divvy up money equally, but it's just not a 2020 solution. Why should poor minorities be forced to attend schools where money is being spent on everything but the children? I know a girl, brilliant girl. I tried to put Sierra on the path to get off the Democrat plantation by having her earn an academic scholarship. It didn't work because of fighting. Sierra went to a school where you have to fight. Her life isn't like an after-school special where the tough but good-hearted kid comes along and tells the other ones to leave this one alone because she's going places. Although she was not the physical aggressor, she wound up in court because her school automatically sends all kids involved in fights to court. Sierra didn't want to fight, and she tried to stay on the right course, but another girl that didn't care about her own future attacked her, and Sierra's school made sure that Sierra was put into the system. How many Ivy League schools want kids with that kind of stuff on their records? Sierra's been physically attacked multiple times since then, each time diminishing her chances of getting a scholarship to a good university. This young lady could have been anything she wanted to be had she just been given the choice to go to a better school. Instead, the Democrats have her right where they want her. Republicans acknowledge that it is essential to provide a way out of failing schools because we believe in choice. In contrast, the only time Democrats are pro-choice is when that choice involves killing Black babies in their strategically placed abortion factories. There are bad teachers, but there are way more good and caring teachers. Too much blame is being put on teachers that could go and work anywhere else and make way more money and not have to worry about being physically assaulted by their students, or worse yet, the parents. I was in a building where the school resource officer was hospitalized after a teenage boy picked her up and tossed her around like a rag doll. That's not a teacher problem. That's a toxic Democrat-created culture problem. There are many parents that do not care about what or how their kids are doing in school because their kids are just going to live off the government after they graduate. In many cases, teachers have become nothing more than glorified babysitters that enable the parents to lay around, do drugs, run the streets, you name it. When we have massive amounts of powerful working families, education will become an important focus again as people relearn that education is how you move up economically. Common Core, everyone hates it, especially the math. I'm the one that's saying what you all are thinking. The emperor has no clothes. The math program is designed to make kids fail. It teaches shortcuts and ignores fundamentals. Obama's administration gave Pearson Publishing $350 million to create the Common Core book text. Pearson, through its subsidiary Penguin Random House, gave Obama a $65 million book deal in 2017. According to a Politico article from 2015, quote, a Politico investigation has found that Pearson stands to make tens of millions in taxpayer dollars and cuts in student tuition from deals arranged without competitive bids in states from Florida to Texas. The review also found Pearson's contracts set forth specific performance targets, but don't penalize the company when it fails to meet those standards. And in the higher ed realm, the contracts give Pearson extensive access to personal student data with few constraints on how it is used. Until the New York Attorney General cracked down in late 2013, Pearson's charitable foundation made a practice of treating school officials from across the nation to trips abroad, to conferences, where the only education company represented was Pearson, unquote. The Washington Post reported in 2015, quote, Pearson paid over $500,000 to one of the two organizations that holds the license for Common Core state standards, unquote. Obama and friends made their money and went on their European vacations. I think it's safe to at least throw out the Common Core math now. Number 4, provide a pathway out of poverty. My friend Jill tried to break the cycle. She got a job as a maid, but she quit after she got her first paycheck when she saw how little she made. Her reasoning was, why should I work when I can get more money sitting at home doing nothing? People make decisions based on their pocketbooks. Jill wanted and tried to get out of the generational welfare cycle, but she gave up when she couldn't find a way. She couldn't find a way out because she's an ordinary person, and it takes extraordinary people to escape the Democrat plantation. Jill didn't know about money. Her mom always had to spend the family money fast because if they saved it, their benefits would be taken away. The concept of saving money was completely foreign to Jill, and she spent her money just as fast as her mom had. In my version of America, Jill never would have quit her job because there are work requirements, and I would allow her to save money so she could do things like buy a car to get a better paying job in another area, or she could put a down payment on a house, which would allow her and her daughters to get out of the bad neighborhood that they live in. We do not have universality in regards to allowing people to save enough money to get out of poverty while collecting government benefits. Let's change this so we can give people a hand up instead of just a Democrat hand out. Number 5, rehabilitating prisoners. Historically, we've dropped people off on the sidewalk with almost no money, no job, no place to go, and then we've acted surprised when they've wound up back in jail. It didn't have to be this way, and President Trump's prison reform bills have already addressed this issue. I would like to work within and add to the framework already provided by the Trump administration. I say we start with one prison, and we turn it into an evidence-based recidivism reduction prison, and we call it Second Chance University. The First Step Act already has the Attorney General working on evidence-based recidivism reduction program policies for the wardens of each prison of the Bureau of Prisons to implement. Part of what that could look like is a combination of college courses or vocational training, along with earning certificates for attending classes in subjects like parenting, drug and alcohol awareness, and various self-help topics. Inmates would have to apply to get into Second Chance University, which would result in a giant community of like-minded, forward-thinking individuals. 200,000 Americans will be raped this year, and as a society, we will condone this barbaric and unnecessary behavior as we collectively laugh at and make jokes about these sexual assault victims because their rapes occurred behind bars. If you go to jail for check fraud, it should not come with a side of rape. At Second Chance University, we would work to eliminate prison rape and prison violence by instituting a zero-tolerance policy and completely overhauling the culture. If you are found to be the physical aggressor in an altercation, you would have to go back to a regular prison. I would also have a zero-tolerance drug and alcohol policy. I would tell inmates that if you choose to come here, this is your new family. It's your chosen family. You don't have to all be best friends, but at the end of the day, you need to have each other's backs. You are one another's best resources. You may be in a cage, but you are not an animal. I see the hurt, the anger, the pain, the rage, but I also see the beauty, the strength, the power, and most importantly, I see the potential. When I look around this room, I see business contacts, mentors, leaders, teachers, brothers. Jamal is going to start a business in 3 years. 2 years after that, he's going to hire Ray. While Jordan and Bob are hanging out, Jordan's mom is going to have a heart attack. Bob is going to save her because he's a nurse. Synergy, the interaction or cooperation of two or more organizations, substances, or other agents to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. We are going to create a network of opportunity with a strong code of brotherhood. You could pool resources. You could help each other write business plans. You could buy each other's merchandise. You name it. This is our old boys club. This is our opportunity to build something greater than ourselves. The Aryan gangs and the Muslim gangs would be replaced with math majors and history majors. President Trump's prison reform acts lay out the framework for working with employers, helping prisoners find housing, and helping people apply for government assistance. What that would look like to me is offering tax breaks to employers that are willing to work with inmates while they are still in the system. Imagine an inmate doing an online interview and having a job already waiting for him when he's released. I would also offer tax breaks to landlords willing to rent to people while they're still in the system. The landlords that want the tax breaks will probably realize that they are dealing with a population that generally has limited funds. In turn, they may lower or altogether eliminate down payments to entice their future Second Chance University tenants. Finally, we'd ensure that they have transportation to their new homes, even if they are out of state. And I'd provide $300 in food stamps based on need. Instead of being homeless, ideally, the Second Chance University graduate would walk out of jail into his own apartment, start work the next day, and not have to worry about starving before he got his first check. Number 6, police reform. I love what President Trump has done with his police reform executive order, but I'd like to go just a little bit further. Everybody hates bad cops. We need to remove the restrictions against anonymous whistleblowing in collective bargaining agreements. Those that come forward should have stronger whistleblower protections than what is currently available. And I'd like to see a national whistleblower hotline whereby anonymous internal reports could be assigned to an objective third party for investigation. I'm putting forth a plan that's actionable today. I have secured the strongfatherspowerfulfamilies.com domain name along with the associated social media sites. I'd like to raise $3,500 to go towards website development, equipment, and other related costs. If you want to hit people over the head and burn things down, there's a movement for that, but it's not this one. This movement is for people that want to implement real working solutions that will build a better America for all of its citizens. We didn't get to the state that the African American community is in overnight, and it will not be fixed tomorrow. But darn it all, if we can't do an all-stop reverse course maneuver immediately, we value love over looting. We value the happy home over the broken home, and we value capitalism over socialism because we have a whole lot of new Black-owned businesses to be built. Strong fathers, powerful families. Strong fathers, powerful families. Strong fathers, powerful families. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and please share it. You can help us continue to fight in the war against disinformation by donating at paypal.me/right-left-of-center. I'm Right from Right Left of Center, and if you're watching, you're probably right too.